Okay, recording in progress. Alex, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, like your background? What's your relationship to trees, to nature? How did you get into this?
Yeah, well, my first introduction to being an arborist and working with trees was when I was 16. I started working on a tree nursery that was near my home. For the first couple of years, it was a summer job. I started in high school and then just continued through my undergraduate degree as well, and then continued through my graduate degree before moving into more management and sales positions for a large arborist company. I did that for a few years before setting out and starting TreeLink. Mm-hmm.
And then you went to university, but you're a ISA certified arborist.
I am, yeah.
So my understanding that's like a separate, like there's training for that, but that's usually not something done in universities. That's something that you did like on the side. Like what did you study in university?
So I studied sustainable agriculture systems in university for my undergrad, and then my master's degree is in agroforestry. So merging food and fiber production into more cohesive ecosystem management rather than standalone agriculture.
Yeah.
So bringing in a bit more of the tree component with the master's degree. And then for my original ISA certification, the first level, you do get points. You need a certain number of points in order to qualify for the certification, and it can be a combination of post-secondary education and work experience. Yeah, my degree just helped me get a few more points and helped me get that certification earlier. And then I did also my board certified master arborist certification through the ISA, which is an additional level of certification. Again, it's the same thing, a points qualification system. Without a master's degree, it takes quite a long time to get there. Sure. But again, my education helped with some points. And then also I'd been working in the industry for about 10 years at that point too, when I got that last certification.
So like, what was it about working at the nursery where you were like, oh, I could do this. Like this could be a career.
Yeah, well, I originally really loved the work. It was the first time for me working directly with natural things, working in an agricultural setting, working with trees. I mean, I'd grown up enjoying being outside, and my parents had a big garden and stuff that I enjoyed working in. But that was the first time where I really started to feel more of a connection to that work. I found that it really fed me working with trees and working in that kind of way.
Why that kind of like agroforestry route? What drew you to that?
That was building on my sustainable agriculture background, and then also all of my experience working in arboriculture. Yeah, it's really an integration of managing trees. Again, it can be long-term, managing them for lumber down the road, or it can be more integrative systems with fruit trees and pasture lands and that kind of thing, where you're producing a lot of food in a really sustainable way. And I think the thing that was most attractive was it was really an ecology-based approach rather than more of the very industrial approach that's taken with agriculture generally, and then also arboriculture too. I found that it really brought in an understanding of natural systems and how they work, and really working with those systems rather than trying to tame or put in very high input agricultural systems in their place.
So you like, we both live in the city, right? We're both here in Edmonton. I'm curious, like, to hear your thoughts on that kind of like agroforestry approach and urban agriculture. Like, do you see, is there much overlap there, or is there like potential for overlap? What does it look like if you took a agroforestry approach and you integrated it with the city, or like with a built environment? Is that like, what are the challenges there? What are the opportunities there? Is that the stuff that you'd like, that makes sense? Or is there 10 reasons why you shouldn't do it?
I think it can absolutely make sense. I think in some ways it could look a lot like permaculture in a yard type setting, where you have an overstory of fruiting trees, an understory of fruiting shrubs, and ground covers that are fixing nitrogen and helping feed the soil and the rest of the system and that kind of thing. That would be just a very very simple way of doing it. And then there would be options for doing that on larger scale. But what I found while I was doing that education, and I was also working as an arborist at the same time, I felt that there was an opportunity to really bring a lot of the benefits of those kinds of systems just in people's regular backyards, and changing how they manage their trees, shifting towards more just fruit tree planting and fruit tree care, and better ways of distributing and managing that fruit, that kind of thing. I found that there definitely are those opportunities there. And then I kind of shifted away from wanting to build those larger scale systems, just to wanting to work directly with people with what they have in a number of cases, and then just help make little decisions that all add up to a much more resilient, productive urban landscape too.
And you started TreeLink a couple of years ago. Like, I'm on your website right now, and like it says, like, the first thing it says TreeLink, and then it says cultivating connection. And it's always struck me that, like, you seem to really enjoy the kind of community aspect stuff. I know that you're doing some volunteering with the with Sustainable Food Edmonton and the McCauley Orchard. I know that you seem to be really kind of drawn to like fruit tree pruning, and just like, I mean, you talk here on your website quite upfront about, cultivating connections between people and nature. And so that seems to be like the lens that you approach your work in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So aside from the pieces of the work that I enjoyed myself directly working with natural systems and living things, I also really enjoyed seeing in people that spark, that bit of connection, that bit of shifting how they're looking at their trees, how they're looking at their landscape. I know that for me, this work was really a pathway to explore and deepen and develop my own personal connection with nature. And I was seeing that in clients and in people I was working with other companies. And I found that it was in many ways just a byproduct of what was being done, but I felt like that actually was the real value, or one of the largest values inherent in this kind of work, and in people participating in that work, caring for their trees, that kind of thing. So I feel like the industry can really be treated more as a trade, and treated in a very like industrial production type focus. But I don't feel like that's the way it has to be done. And I really try in my own work to create opportunities and to encourage that spark of connection with nature that I feel in my clients. And then I try to get involved in community projects on top of that too. Like Shrubscriber is a great example. That's why I joined up. And one of the things I really appreciated about it is that larger community feel that it does build. And then that micro orchard as well that I've been volunteering with for a number of years. I feel like that's another opportunity for me to kind of hit that mandate or that target for myself outside of my business as well.
On the note of like Shrubscriber, like, what are some ways that this community has or could further support the work that you're doing? What could this community do to support you directly, or that larger vision that you're kind of trying to create?
Well, I think in terms of the larger vision, that's kind of inherently what Shrubscriber does. So I don't feel like there's really a shift needed. I feel like building that larger community and that building spaces for people to talk about what they're doing and learn and continue to grow their interest and all of that is great in terms of the larger vision. So I think I just want to continue to participate in Shrubscriber for that. And then in terms of me outside of my business, if anybody has projects that they feel like they could use a hand on that line up with what we've been talking about, even in a volunteer capacity, those are things I'm always interested in hearing about and learning about. And then with my business itself, if they know people or they have some trees that they want to really care for in a very helpful and long-term vision kind of way, I'd be happy to work with them on that.
So talk a little bit more about the specific work that you do with TreeLink.
Yeah, well, we specialize in younger tree care and fruit tree care specifically. We do work with most sizes of trees as well, but that's really our focus. We do a lot of tree planting throughout the whole year, but the spring and summer are the busiest times for that. We do a lot of tree pruning as well. Again, more so with younger trees and fruit trees, but again, almost all trees we can work with in some way. And we also offer coaching services. So that's where I'll go out and I'll meet with people who feel like their trees needs professional care. They have a really, really vested interest in learning a lot of these skills themselves. And it's a way to kind of combine the two of those things. So I'll go for, usually it's a couple of hours and work with people, pruning a tree or two of theirs together. And then along the way, we're talking through all of the principles that go into making pruning decisions and the long-term pruning plans for those trees, what kind of things you want to develop and encourage with time, and also just the basic skills on how to use pruning tools. And yeah, so those three things are our main services: planting, pruning, and coaching. And really enjoy doing it.
It seems like the education component is important, as well as you tend to have kind of like a longer sort of lifespan of the tree lens. And I'm not saying that arborists don't, but it seems to be like a particular strength or focus of yours when you're talking about, here's the changes, or here's the things that this tree is going to need over time, or here's the long-term plan for it. Is that something that you'd say like TreeLinks focuses on, or
Yeah, absolutely. So we focus on structural pruning. So that's pruning that's designed to or intended to develop a specific structure throughout that tree's lifetime. It's focused on developing a strong, sustainable, healthy structure that can help avoid some of the problems that tend to have trees die earlier than they need to, like big limb failures, big stem failures, big conflicts with power lines in homes and that kind of thing. There's pruning that you can do when the tree is young, or even if it's been around for a long time, to shift how that tree grows and develops. And yeah, when we're pruning, the lens isn't this year, it's usually 5, 10 plus years down the road. So the cuts that are made, decisions that are made with the intention of the whole lifespan of the tree in mind, not just solving quick issues. So that's something that we really focus on, and that I think TreeLink does differently and does well.
And you also, you mentioned planting. To the best of my knowledge, planting is not, like a lot of landscapers will do planting, right? But to the best of my knowledge, not a lot of arborists do planting. I could be, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just, is that common for arborists to do that? And what's a good planting piece of advice?
Yeah, you're right. It's not common for arborists to plant trees. Generally, arborists will prune and remove trees. That'll be the main drive of the business. And what I chose to do is step away from the removal side. I do some here and there, but I shifted away from that piece and took on the planting piece, which again is typically not done. Usually it's only nurseries or landscape companies that do that. But yeah, we fill I think we fill a really nice gap between people. Landscapers do really well when it's a blank slate and you put everything in all at once. And we tend to work with people that have established yards and want to make really good planting decisions that complement their space and all of the surrounding trees, and can do well there for a really long time.
And with having that sort of that knowledge of from planting all the way to tree removal, I imagine that you have some insights that come in really handy in those early stages, right? It's like you've seen, I suspect, a lot of things not to do. So one piece of planting advice off the top of your head?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest one for avoiding long-term issues and extending the lifespan of the tree is putting the right tree in the right place, making sure that it's a tree that has characteristics that are well suited to the site and also well suited to what you really want. There's a lot of really large trees that are planted in small spaces, and that tends to be quite difficult to keep them around long term. And then there's a lot of trees planted with traits. Like if you know that you really aren't going to use fruits, planting a crabapple tree is probably not a great idea. You come across a lot of circumstances where the cleanup from trees, if things aren't being used properly or aren't wanted or needed in that space, those kinds of issues can cause a tree to be removed from the space earlier than it needs to be too.
For the right space, for the right client. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Alex, or where can people go to find out more information about you and the work that you do?
Well, I just wanted to say thanks to you for setting this up. And if people want to learn more, they can go to my website, treelink.ca, and then they can feel free to, my contact information is on the website. They can feel free to reach out with any questions or anything that comes up.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for being a member of Shrubscriber. I'm glad that there are arborists out there like you doing the work that you're doing, very community minded. I really appreciate it. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin.